Well, Eileen, thank you so much for joining me today. It is great to talk about Cox and digital inclusion.
Thank you. Great to be here, Tyler.
Absolutely. Well, we can just jump right in. I know we have a lot to cover. So, one of the first things that I want to talk about just right out of the gate is, you know, Cox has connected a ton of homes, right? I mean, over 5 million people through its digital equity program specifically. And since that's sort of the theme of this conversation, can you discuss some of the most significant challenges you face in reaching some of these underserved and rural areas, and also just sort of how you've overcome those challenges?
Sure, I'd love to, and and thank you for highlighting this work. It's a passion of mine. It's important to Cox, so thank you for allowing us the platform to talk about this. So first and foremost, Cox has been at this for over a decade. And what we've really learned throughout the decade, through some bruises, I will say, is that you really need to take what we call a holistic approach. So, number one, you need to drive awareness and trust. But it's also, and a lot of people forget about this, especially internet providers, it's about removing barriers to make it easy for households to get connected. So here's what I mean by that. So, number one, we need to build awareness and trust. As much as we like to think that everybody believes their internet provider, we know that some customers may be skeptical. And it's really important to build that awareness and trust through community partners. And I'm proud of the fact that Cox has many different partners, both at the national level and the local level, who help carry our message and have built that trust with customers to be able to bring awareness to our low cost digital equity programs, which help customers get connected to the internet for as low as $9.95. So number one, it's about building the trusted partners in the community. The second thing, and I think this one is often overlooked, is about removing all of those barriers. And that's where I said we've learned a lot over the years. Because 10 years ago, when we started doing this, we did have some of these barriers. And I am really proud to say that over the years, we've removed them because, again, our goal is to make it easy for households to get connected to our digital equity programs for those that qualify. And so what are some examples of those barriers? I bet you were going to ask me that, weren't you? So let me give you examples. So first and foremost, if you don't have a computer, well, an internet connectivity is not going to be much help to you. So we have provided access to low-cost computers. We also done things like not requiring credit checks, no deposits. So removing that barrier, which often prevents some customers from getting connected. We provide free equipment. There's no upfront fees or deposits. And then we let the customer choose how they want to install their product. Some customers would prefer to do self-install because it works better for their schedule with work, etc. But other customers may be scared to install the services themselves. And so we provide that install method to customers for no charge as well. And last but not least, what we've done is we've made the sign-up process very easy. It can get overwhelming and confusing as you're trying to figure out, do I qualify and how to apply? And we've tried to remove a number of barriers in what we call the digital flow as customers can use their phone, et cetera, to get connected. And then one more thing, which is once customers get connected, we want to do everything that we can to help them stay connected. So that means we don't charge late fees. So if a customer is having a hard time paying their $9.95 bill, let's not layer on top of that and charge a late fee to make it harder for customers. So we want to help customers, again, not just get connected, but to stay connected. Means that we have easy processes and policies, and then we, again, spread awareness through our partnerships.
Absolutely. I mean, those are such crucial components of this that I think impact everyone when it comes to getting online. And it's amazing to see providers like yourself sort of breaking down those barriers for people, because everything you just mentioned is something that someone I know has felt whenever they're trying to sign up for broadband, right? Even myself in many cases. And I do this every day. So, kind of shifting gears, something we were talking about before that I think is interesting, that, the survey results from Cox-sponsored digital equity programs, they're pretty impressive outcomes, right? I mean, I think this is something that I wanted to highlight here because, I think it's something like 70% of participants rather finding a job or leaving for a better job, right? A program like this I think is really exciting because a lot of times at Broadband Now we talk about the internet being much more than just a luxury, right? It's a prerequisite for so many of the things we do every day, even we're doing right now, right? This is part of our jobs. And so I think, when I think about this program, how does Cox plan to sort of build on these successes and further empower communities through their internet connection?
That's a great question. I often think how my household, meaning my children, even myself, that we go in a panic when our internet goes down, even for an hour, right? I'm not able to work. I'm not able to access information. Maybe I have a teledoctor appointment, right? And I can't do those things. So I can only imagine how hard it is for households who don't have any access at all. And you're right, it has had a significant impact. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that we have a really good product. And that's why Cox has invested over $11 billion in our fiber powered network so that we can bring reliable and strong internet to all communities. We've also, as you mentioned, the underserved. So we've committed hundreds of millions of dollars to extend our reach to underserved and rural communities. And we've already seen that impact's made a difference to thousands of homes and business never had internet access. So this is their first time having that internet access. But in addition to having that core internet access, which you've already mentioned, we've talked about, has such an impact to help with school and finding better jobs, there's other things that we've done in the community. So since 2003, we've partnered closely with the Boys and Girls Club of America to help position kids for success for the future. And what does that look like? It means that we're providing state-of-the-art innovation labs with tools and technology to help those students after school. And we have more than 100 innovation labs across the country, and we're really proud of that partnership. We also have been able to enable customers to enhance their digital proficiency. I know from the calls that I get from my mom, I probably need to send her to our Cox Digital Academy. But that's where customers, not just children, but parents as well, can build their digital proficiency. So I think I will maybe actually have my mom go over and take a few of our classes there. And last but not least, as I talked about before, it's through those discounted computers because you have to have access to devices.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, all of these things again touch on the fact that just getting online is really, it's not the first step, right? It's actually step 4 or 5. There's so many components that have to be in place for people to take advantage of the internet. And most of us sort of, well, at least, a great many of us take this sort of thing for granted. But as you just mentioned, all of those things can be barriers. And I think that sort of leads me to my next point, which is that something I admire about Cox is that you guys think big, right? I love the Cox 34 by 34 initiative, right, which aims to enrich the lives of 34 million people by 2034. Can you just elaborate on this goal? I mean, it's so ambitious. How will this be achieved? What role will technology and access and digital equity and really all the things we've been talking about play on that journey?
Yeah. I love our 34 by 34 mission. And more importantly, I love working for Cox. I'm going to divert a minute and then come back.
Yeah, of course.
This isn't a commercial for, to work at Cox, although it's a great place to work. I think we just won an award for that. But I will say that digital equity in our 34 by 34, it's not lip service. It's really, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my computer flipped. Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, you can jump right back in where we were, start that sentence over, we'll roll.
Sure. It's not just lip service. It's really about our core values as a company. And we're a privately owned company, we're a family business. And those values are reflected in how we treat our customers and our employees. And so when 34 by 34 came out, we were not surprised, but we were thrilled to have such a formal way and a goal to achieve our purpose of building a better future for the next generation. So 34 by 34 has 6 different pathways where we have tools and partners and know-how to make a real impact in the communities we serve. So those 6 pathways are access to lifelong education, social equity, employment skills, environmental sustainability, good health, and of course, technology access, which we're talking about today. So our digital equity programs are a big component of our 34 by 34, but the 34 by 34 program is holistic in the fact that it encompasses these 6 pillars.
Yeah, that's a really, I mean, you mentioned at the start of this the sort of holistic approach Cox takes, and I don't think you can get more holistic than that. I mean, that's the thing I love about that perspective is that looks beyond just broadband as in a vacuum, right? This is something, as we've been mentioning, that touches our lives in countless ways, right? I mean, you can't do anything on an average day without relying on your connection if you work in a role like yours or mine or millions of others, right? I think that, and you've mentioned other aspects like telehealth and learning and staying connected with our community, all of these things. I think that it's been amazing seeing the shift over the last, even 4 or 5 years to see this sort of universal understanding of broadband as this necessity, right? And
And I would just add on too that, if you think about it, it's really about economic mobility as well. How can
yes,
we raise people up and help them achieve their potential, right? And it's through these 6 pathways.
absolutely. And I think going back for a second to wrap up here, I think all of this ambitious plan setting and goals are great, but obviously right now we still have this other problem, right? Which is we need to get people online today and we need to get them connected. And I think some of the things that interest me most about the sort of Cox method of doing that is the connect to compete and the connect assist internet plans, right? They offer affordable options for households to take advantage of and get online. I know a bit about these programs, but how have they sort of evolved since their inception? I think you're much more better qualified than I am to talk about them. And sort of what impact have these programs that have such a specific strategy, right, had on bridging the digital divide in the communities that you serve?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, that we've been focused on closing the digital divide for over a decade. And, there's been a lot of talk about the Affordable Connectivity Program, which provided a $30 subsidy off internet for low-income households. And, unfortunately, that did not get extended or funded to continue by the federal government. But with or without the ACP program, let me make it clear that Cox is committed to digital equity and to our programs. And I'd love to tell the story years ago. And it just, again, is another example to show our commitment. Hiring a new employee on the team, sent out a message, and that next morning, the president of our company was wandering our floor. And typically, we went to his floor. He didn't go to our floor. And he said to me, Eileen, I want to find this person, the new manager who is starting, because I want to talk to her about how important this program is, not just to me, but to the Cox family. And I tell that story because, again, I think it's important for everybody to understand, when we say this is important and it's important to all of us at Cox, we really mean it. So I love sharing that story. So as I mentioned, though, we've learned a lot about what best-in-class programs look like. And we have what we call 2 core programs. We have Connect to Compete, and that's internet access for $9.95 for households with school-age children K through 12 in the free school lunch program. We also have our Connect Assist program, which has a broader set of eligibility requirements. So you can be 200% or below poverty level, you can be on Medicaid or a number of government assistance programs, and get internet for $30 a month. And so those are our 2 core digital equity programs. We've evolved the product, we've increased the speed. So right now it provides 100 meg. So customers can get access to our fiber-powered high-speed internet at 100 meg. Customers have access to 4 million hotspots, those low-cost computers, the digital academy. So we've evolved the product and made it even better. we have also developed a formal partner program. And by that, it used to be we'd email flyers to partners, or we would just, talk one-on-one to our partners. But we recognize that our partners in the community, we needed to make it easy for them to help close the digital divide as well. So we've developed a formal partner program, and people can read more about that at cox.com/partner portal. And it shares with case studies. It provides partners with access to flyers and information, and talks about all the ways you can partner with Cox to help get people connected. We also, again, have been constantly updating our awareness tactics. I made a point earlier that it's important that customers have a clear understanding and that we're transparent of what is available to them. And so customers can learn about our programs by going to cox.com/digital equity. So those are our programs. And throughout the 10 years, we've heard directly from our customers the impact these programs are having. And you mentioned the 70% finding better jobs, but we were shocked to find out that half the homes through our digital equity programs have gotten home internet for the first time. So that shows that we're really making an impact. That's huge. 90% said that Cox internet access has had a positive impact on their child's education. And the majority of respondents feel more optimistic about their economic and employment future. And so that's that economic mobility that I spoke about before. The data is really important, but what I love to do is to read the verbatims, the comments from customers. And often here at Cox, we'll read those in our staff meetings to remind us that there's a human, there's a family, there's a mother or a child behind every one of what we call, our customer numbers. And so I love reading the customer verbatims that say that they're grateful, they're relieved when describing having internet for the first time. We've had parents say that their child no longer has to take home packets anymore. And so that's really what it's about is, yes, we want to look at the data and the numbers. That is important, but it's the people and their stories behind those numbers that really show the impact.
I couldn't have said that better. I think, so much of this conversation turns into a numbers game, right? How many people connected, how many homes, how many, what speed, but ultimately what we're talking about is changing people's lives, right? Doing the things that so many of us get to do every day for the first time, as you just mentioned. So Illene, thank you so much for sharing just a bit about this story and about Cox's efforts. It's our honor to highlight you guys and shine a light on what you're doing. That's basically what we do here. So it's, thank you so much. We're so happy to recognize you, and just thank you for sharing the story.
Thank you. Thank you so much.